Greetings from Costa Rica. My name is Matt Rosensteel, and today I am joined by one of my best clients. Ryan Page is here telling us the surfer's perspective. I want to make sure that I'm actually getting audio here and realizing that I might not be. Hopefully everybody can hear us out there. We've got this plugged in, and I had meant to look at our Mac. Hopefully people can hear us. Welcome to our live Costa Rica real estate chat. Today our subject is, generally speaking, not really real estate. Glad Dimitri can hear us. Ryan's a surfer. I am from Indiana and I have zero surfing experience. I can never talk about it. I have no idea what the waves are. The stuff that comes out of surfers' mouths often confuses me because I just don't know their vocabulary. So I wanted Ryan to come on and give us a little bit of the surfer's perspective here in Guanacaste. Thanks very much for joining me, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from and how did you get to Costa Rica?
Okay. Originally, I'm from Southern California. I grew up in Hawaii, spent most of my life there. And how did I end up in Costa Rica? Well, my dad has been coming here. My dad's a surfer as well. And he's been coming here for about the last 20 years or so. And he was always trying to convince me to come with him, and I never did because I was like, Hawaii's got the best waves in the world. Why do I want to go to Costa Rica? But
yeah,
I don't know if you've ever been to Hawaii or not, but it's pretty overpopulated. You know, there's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of crowds. And finally, he retired and he said, "You're coming with me. So let's go." I was like, "All right. Let's go."
Okay.
So I was kind of reluctant actually to come down here, believe it or not. And once we got here, we came to this area and I was like, wait a minute, there's nobody around here. Like, it was like, wow, the roads are empty, the beaches are empty. There's not much crowds in the water. And I was kind of like
impressed.
All right, yeah. And I decided like right then and there, all right, let's do it.
Very cool.
So it was actually kind of more his influence. It wasn't really my idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I probably never would have moved here if it wasn't for that trip. Like Costa Rica was not on my radar.
What year was that?
2012, I think.
Okay, so you've been here 11 years.
Yeah.
I mentioned Ryan's one of my best clients. He is a repeat buyer. What kinds of properties have you bought so far in Costa Rica?
My first purchase was a duplex right over here. So I live in one side and rented the other side out to one of my buddies. And then the condominium in Tamarindo.
Yeah, number two.
Number two. And number three, the property over here, Palma Azul, which I'm building a little 1-bedroom on.
Yep.
And they're all long-term rent.
Yeah.
I figured that's the way to go. I just think it's a lot easier.
What sorts of rental income can you get owning a 1-bedroom unit here? Like if you do long terms, what sorts of rents do you hope to achieve?
Oh, depends on the quality of the house, really. But
like for your place in Tamarindo, he's got a centrally located 1-bedroom condo right in the middle of town. I know you guys have been using it too as your family, but what sort of, if you put that on the long-term market, what would you try and get?
Well, right now I have somebody in there for $1,300 a month.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. $1,300. Mm-hmm. What about over here in Junquial? What do you plan? I know that's going to be a house, a standalone.
That'll actually be a little less because I feel like Junquial's not as desirable. So I would say about $1,000 and they pay the utilities.
Okay.
Sounds about fair.
Very cool. No, so he's not just a surfer, he's a real estate investor. And one of the reasons I loved going on tour with Ryan was that he was very open with his opinions about properties that we would see. And we'd be visiting these poor listing agents who would be doing their best to try and give a positive spin on things. Like, look at how nice this is. And Ryan doesn't hesitate to say, are you talking about that junky green cloth over there? You know, because that looks really bad to me. It's just my opinion. And anyway, it was a pleasure. He didn't end up buying a condo that particular time, but anytime you want to go looking at real estate and just talk crap about other people's listings like that, you're welcome to. So let's talk a little bit about surfing in Guanacaste. you've now been surfing here 11 years. Do you still feel like you love, as empty as it is, can you still get as many waves as you want? How's it changed?
It's a little more crowded in certain places, but you can definitely, find your own space for sure. More than just about anywhere in the world I've been to. I've traveled around a lot, and it's pretty mellow here, pretty chill, pretty laid back.
What other places have you gone?
Indonesia, Samoa, like all over California, like Hawaii, Guam. Am I missing anywhere? Oh, Nicaragua, El Salvador.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so specifically in Costa Rica, why is Costa Rica missing all of this surf tourism that other areas are too busy or there's too many people out there? How has it sort of stayed secret?
Costa Rica kind of had its heyday back in the early 90s to early 2000s.
Okay.
And that's why I was reluctant to come here. I actually came here on my own for the first time in 94 with a buddy of mine, and we really liked it. But then after that, all I heard was, oh, it's blowing up. There's people buying that and gringos, this and that. So I wrote it off. And I feel like a lot of people have.
Do you think that right now Guanacaste is like too expensive sort of for the surf crowd?
Or a little bit.
Uh-huh.
That could be one reason. And another reason too is because the country like say Nicaragua and El Salvador have become a lot safer to travel to. I feel like that's taken some of the line. I feel like other places have stolen, like Costa Rica is a secret spot all over again because these places get more discovered around the world.
Yeah.
People start going there. Costa Rica is really close to America.
Yeah.
So that was this is one of the first places to blow up. And then people started realizing, whoa, there's Indonesia. Whoa, there's like Samoa and all these other places. And it's kind of took away took away the attention from here.
Yeah, I had no idea there was like a heyday back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And if we're talking to people who just international surf crowd, where does Costa Rica stand out, or why is it, if you're talking about Indonesia or Nicaragua, why do you go to Costa Rica instead of other places, or what makes it special for surfers?
I don't really know how to answer that.
Okay, that's totally fine. By the way, I walked into the room about 30 seconds before noon. Poor Ryan was here waiting, and he was like, I wanted to talk about where we were going with this dialogue, and it was like, nope, we're turning on the camera, sorry. I just have no idea. So if surfers are planning these international trips, are people really always trying to push and just, I want the most isolated, I want to be by myself kind of, is that the goal for a lot of these people?
For me, I would say yes. For your more like elderly surf crowd, yeah. But for like the younger guys, kind of want to be in the limelight, be where all the action is. So that's kind of what drove me away from Hawaii too a little bit. I was like, I'm kind of older, this is like the epicenter of the surfing world. I'm kind of tired of being surrounded by pros every time I go surf. It's like I'd like to get some waves to myself, And it was just, I don't know, it just got kind of too intense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk. I want you to describe something I've never understood is like surfer vocabulary. One of the biggest waves in our area that attracts the most tourism and the reason the community exploded is Tamarindo, which honestly, from my perspective as someone who doesn't surf, it looks like it's a learner's wave, and I almost never see like really ripping big waves. How would you describe the wave at Tamarindo if you were speaking as a pure surfer?
Exactly the way you just did.
Really?
Yeah. And well, the reason for it being so crowded is really 80% of surfers are at
low levels.
Yeah, very, very few surfers are, have a lot of experience. It takes like a good 10 years of, dedication and commitment, like every day in the water. Like I've been surfing almost every day since I was 13 years old. I'm 47 now. So I've been doing this a long time.
Yep. Now, so waves can be rights or lefts.
Right.
I've heard it 10 times and I always forget. It's a right if you're moving right to left. Explain the difference between a right and a left to someone from Indiana who has no idea.
Okay, if you're standing on the beach looking out at the ocean, a right is this way and the left is that way.
A right, the surfers are actually moving right to left on a right.
On a right, the surfers are moving north to south. On a left, they're moving south to north.
Okay, yeah. Absolutely. So if you're sitting here at the beach, so there's rights and lefts. There are reef breaks, point breaks, etc. What kind is Tamarindo? I just have no idea.
There's a little bit of both, actually.
Okay.
There's some sand, there's some reefs. There's no points, really.
Okay.
I'd say like a combination of sand and reef.
I see a lot of places here that look just crazy rocky. How does the safety of a lot of these beaches compare to like other places in the world? You know, is this one of the dangerous, like you have to be advanced?
Not at all. The waves in Costa Rica, except for maybe there's a couple waves on like the Caribbean side, and maybe sometimes around here when it gets a bit bigger. But for me, like the waves in Costa Rica pretty much have little to no consequence.
Okay.
Especially coming from where I grew up surfing. Yeah.
Very tame.
Which is why I like it, because I'm older now.
Yeah.
You know, very tameable, very manageable.
You keep saying you're older. You're what, like 40? 47. Okay. And
in
the surfing.
In the surfing world, that's old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dimitri, would you grab me another brew? How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm sure.
Folks, it's been a long week here in Costa Rica. We've been waiting for the rainy season to come around. It's currently got to be above 90 degrees in Guanacaste from 10 a.m. until about 3:30 in the afternoon. And helpfully, the air conditioning in our office stopped working 3 days ago. So we're both sitting here in the middle of what is actually like mid-80s interior office weather.
If I would have known, I wouldn't have worn a black t-shirt.
Yeah, you got that extra. Cheers, Ryan. Cheers to everybody out there. As always, every Friday at noon, we do live broadcasts talking about one aspect of Costa Rica or another. Obviously, my channel is dedicated to providing real estate information, but Ryan had always mentioned that he'd be interested in giving the surfer's perspective a little bit, and definitely want to cover it because I have none of this perspective whatsoever. So surfers now in Guanacaste, you're the local. Do you feel where you surf? Do you have a lot of issues with tourists that are sort of butting onto your waves, or
not at all?
Really?
No.
That's good to hear.
This area's kind of got a little more of like a local vibe to it, more than other. Like say Tamarindo is kind of like a free for all. Around here, there's kind of a pecking order. You know, like the guys that have put in the most time, that got the most experience, kind of get priority. Mm-hmm. You sort of give them the pick of the litter, then you kind of. You show respect to the boys, definitely, for sure.
Yeah. And do you feel pretty much everyone around here does that? There's not like a lot of, I've heard in Hawaii or California, it can get pretty like testy out in the water.
Yeah. There's places like it can get pretty hectic. Mm-hmm. But here, no, for the most part, no.
Okay.
Everybody here is pretty laid back and mellow. You know, people aren't too aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the really like advanced waves in where would be the biggest spots in Costa Rica that are sort of, you have to be a top surfer? Is it Grande?
Oh, Salsa Brava.
And where is it?
On the Caribbean side.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Southern end, northern end?
I actually don't know for sure. I've never really been there, but just seeing video of it, I'm like, whoa.
Okay.
Yeah, that's legit.
Well, and that's funny because it's on the Caribbean side. I had no idea that anywhere there's waves there. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's another part of me. I need someone to come on the program who's been to the Caribbean in the last 10 years because I haven't. I figured it was all just calm bay-like conditions because the Gulf is just like that, but apparently I'm wrong. On this side, what sort, are we talking down in Guiones? Are those really big waves, or where do you find the sort of advanced surf waves in Guanacaste?
Around here.
Oh.
This area.
Yeah. And we're not talking about this area's surf because really it's not that great, and nobody should consider coming here specifically for the surf. If you were taking a road trip from here to any other surf break in Costa Rica and you had your free ride, hotel paid for, where would you go surfing? Would it be Salsa Brava?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Even as a 47-year-old surfer, you.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Bring it.
Absolutely. Around here, do you feel now, one of the things I had heard is that local surf breaks, especially in the 2012 earthquake, changed. Is that a real thing? Did you notice? I mean, you were here a year or two before.
I don't know if I buy that or not.
Okay.
That's really hard to say. Like, maybe if it's like a rock bottom or a reef break, yeah, it's possible. But sand, like beach breaks, which the majority of surf spots out here are sand bottom.
Yeah.
That changes regardless of whether there's an earthquake. We got rivers, that change the sandbars. Like the waves will break in different spots. But a reef, that's the thing about reef breaks. They're real consistent. They break in the same spot every time because the bottom doesn't move.
Okay.
So like a certain reef break, exactly where the wave is gonna break every time.
Yep.
So it's possible, I guess. I don't know, but I don't know.
Yeah. So with reef breaks, that word you say if it's rocks or reef or whatever, it's called a reef break, never called a rock break.
Yeah, reef break.
Reef break, okay. I always heard them calling certain spots reef breaks, and it's like, there's no coral out there. But I guess the word reef, it can be a coral reef or just a regular reef.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, that makes sense. So when you started surfing at 13, did you actually learn with lessons, or was this just with your dad?
Just with my dad.
Very cool. How long, if someone wanted to come to Costa Rica and get to a decent level of surfing, at least where they're like safe by themselves, how many months or weeks do you think they'd need to work on it?
A year
at
least.
Yeah. Oh, and I believe you. I've done it 3 times. The second and third time were just like the first time. It was completely new, and every time it felt like it was a complete random accident, whether or not I stood up and did okay or just completely flopped. So yeah, I would definitely say that you see so many people coming down here with that, want to learn to surf, and the surf schools always have that, we'll get you standing up in your first lesson. To me, that does not authorize somebody to surf by themselves or go in the ocean by themselves, because especially being someone from Indiana who had no idea about tides, different waves, how they move across the beach, the ocean remains a super dangerous place until you've spent a year living, breathing, being in it, etc.
Well,
so
at least a year.
Yeah.
Because actually, the last thing you want to do is, you're out. You're not going to beat Mother Nature. You know what I mean? Mother Nature is always going to win, and the last thing I want to do is put myself in a dangerous situation, having to rescue somebody else who is out where they shouldn't, who's in over their head.
Yep.
It's like, buddy, you shouldn't be out here. Now you're risking my life because I gotta save you. Have
you and the guys out here been involved in any rescues?
Oh, plenty.
Yeah.
Every Semana Santa. Every Semana Santa, guaranteed we're gonna get a phone call. Hey Ryan, some of the all the boys. Somebody's drowning down here. Get down here with your surfboard. Go get them.
Yeah, this is
every year. Almost guaranteed.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest things in Costa Rica. There's not going to be a safe. There aren't lifeguard towers on 99% of the beaches here, and the Pacific Ocean at high tide will suck you out into it, whether you're at basically any beach. There's virtually, there are only 5 or 6 bays along the coast where you can actually swim safely all the time. Surfers, recently at Avellanas, because they have the Lola's restaurant and there are thousands of people there every day, they're pulling people out constantly because of the tourism traffic. And yeah, it's local surfers who have the boards, who have the upper body strength, who have the knowledge of the waves, who end up running out there and doing it. And yeah, it's super risky. I mean,
It is.
geez, we have tons of incidents along the coast. So definitely it's not something to just mess with and think that, you know, you're knowledgeable when you could get into some trouble.
You know, honestly, too, actually, I think the beaches along this little stretch where we live is kind of what's kept this area from really blowing up too much.
Yeah,
The beaches here are not that user friendly for just your average beachgoer.
yeah,
It's like if you go down to the beach out here on a typical day, if you don't know how to swim, you're going to drown. You're going to get caught in a rip. It's going to take you out. It's black sand. There's not a lot of shade.
yeah,
The waves are really powerful,
Yeah.
really wild. It's kind of, you know, other places like Tamarindo, the waves are nice and gentle. Anyone can just go out there and swim and frolic around the ocean. Here, that's just not happening.
yeah.
You
That's
know?
and yeah, it's not so dangerous that everybody shouldn't consider buying real estate in this area.
I didn't mean that.
But no, he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Especially at high tide, this is not a swimming beach. Like
No.
you could have, you know, it doesn't matter how good at swimming you are, you're going to get pulled out at high tide because this is a very powerful, and like the locations, you're not in Punta Dominicana or whatever, you know, in the Dominican Republic or in the Caribbean islands where you've got just inch high waves lapping up on shore all day and really this pleasant bay-like experience. These beaches are very raw. They're not go out there and
Everybody I know, even the most experienced guys, have all been in some bad situations here. Like we have this thing they call it the impact zone.
Mm-hmm,
We're in this zone where you have a rip tide going out,
mm-hmm.
so you can't swim in, and you're caught inside when big sets are coming. So you don't want to swim out and put yourself where the bigger waves are, but you can't get in either.
Uh-huh.
So you'll just be kind of stuck there, just getting it on the head.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like swimming under.
Yeah.
Yeah, like unless you got the endurance to handle that, it's like you could be in big trouble.
Totally.
Especially if you don't have a surfboard.
Yeah.
You know, a surfboard at least you can. It's like an object you can see.
Yeah.
If you're just a swimmer out there, we might never see you. You get caught in that impact zone.
Yeah.
Dude, good luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
We had a great question from Paul. He wanted to know if we're talking Lagarto until Nosara, what beaches would be good for total newbies? You know, like what learner beaches are available south of here?
Nosada is a really good beach.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Guiones, you mean?
Guiones
precisely?
is a great
Yeah.
beach for. Guiones is actually like great for all levels,
Okay.
from your beginner to your advanced and everything in between.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a really big, wide beach. The waves are kind of gentle, but at the same time, they have enough power for an experienced surfer to have fun. And even when it's crowded, it doesn't really matter because the beach is so big and so broad, and there's so much space.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that part of the reason Nosara and Guiones have gone so wild? I always think of it as.
I kind of think so. And I think that's the most user-friendly beach that
Okay.
I've seen in Guanacaste. It has the most space and
Yeah.
nice community. So
Perfect surf hotspot down in Guiones. Unfortunately, if you want to live close to the water there, it's going to cost you $1 million. Guiones and Nosara also have private schools. It's exploded. You know, they also have sort of the whole yoga retreat center going. They've had some major affluent families sort of invest big money down there, but I didn't realize the surf was that good as well.
well, it's really consistent.
Okay. What's Marbella like? Like, I only seem to hear real surfers talking about Marbella.
Yeah. Marbella's very consistent,
Uh-huh.
and it's got some, you know, you
Packed
need some
to it.
experience to surf there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And not only that, it's not like the most convenient spot to go to. So there's that too.
What do you think? Doug had asked, what do you think of surfing around Santa Teresa? Have you gone down
Never
there?
been there.
Never been there. That makes two of us. Both of us have lived over a decade, only a few hours from Santa Teresa. I hear Giselle has a place down there, Bunchen.
I've just heard mixed things about there.
Oh, what? Tell me about it.
I've heard like people like me would hate it. And then I've heard younger people just, oh my God, it's paradise. I love it. Digital nomad.
Yeah.
Kind of paradise. So I don't know.
I think so to give you an idea, I was using Ryan's daughter's cell phone to communicate with him when we were closing real estate deals. Because you don't seem to be that into technology.
No, I don't even have a cell phone. I have no cell phone. I have no social media whatsoever. If those are important to me, they know where to find me.
Yeah.
Small town.
Yeah, it's a very small town. Yeah, for sure. He owns 3 properties here in Guanacaste, and they're very good representations of what different times have brought. You got a duplex back when Junquillal was super quiet for a great price. I mean, today we could sell that for twice as much.
Oh, I think maybe 3 times.
Yeah, maybe 3 times as much. It's a simple house, I think 800, 900 square feet inside, extra apartment on the side.
Pool.
You picked that up in what, 2018 or 19? Yeah, I was trying to find our picture. It was like 2019 that you got that one. And then you bought the Balcones Tamarindo condo in the next year in like 2020.
Yeah, the very next year.
Balcones, so, he paid more for his 1-bedroom studio apartment in Tamarindo.
Significantly more.
Yeah, than he did for his 1,000, he's got a 1/4 acre of land 2 blocks from the beach in Junquillal, as well as the house and the apartment.
And a pool.
And a pool. You put in a pool?
Yeah.
Oh, crazy. Did you have Roger do that?
Yeah.
I just saw Roger. I was touring Hacienda Pinilla homes with him. He's
building my new place over here too.
Yeah, very cool. So he's had his fair share of real estate deals. He's also a dedicated surfer. If you have any questions for either Ryan or me, Chaz, absolutely. No cell phone or social media. That's the dream. Stress-free living. We 100% agree. So tell us about riptides. Paul also asked, generally speaking, I feel like every beach at high tide has a riptide going for it, and you could get caught anywhere. Is it only broad beaches? Does it also happen at narrow beaches?
No, all beaches, because where water comes in, water has to go back out.
Yeah.
So, but generally, the higher the tide, like certain moons, like full moon and new moon, have extreme high tide and extreme low tide. So the water moves more rapidly, quicker.
Oh.
So you can literally look at the calendar when they're like during a full week of full moon, you're going to have an extreme high and an extreme low.
Okay.
And that's when you're going to see really bad riptides. When the water's really rushing in, like when the tide's coming in, the water has to go out somewhere.
Yep.
So that's what causes riptides pretty much.
Very interesting. So, Paul, avoid, they will all be exacerbated at that time of month. And
however, at the same time, as a surfer, you use it to your advantage.
Are the waves bigger at full moons?
No, we use riptides to our advantage.
Oh, okay.
Like when you jump in the riptide, it's going to pull you right out. So you kind of jump in the rip, and maybe 3/4 of the way out, you start to like work your way over, and you're out in the lineup.
Yeah.
Like really quick, as opposed to like just paddling out down the beach where there's no riptide.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's a current that helps you in the direction you're trying to get in that moment.
But then they go to your disadvantage too, because if you paddle out the wrong time to get caught, you get caught in that impact zone, and that's the worst place you ever want to be.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Believe me, you can't swim in, and you can't swim out.
Yeah. No, I've only had like a couple times when I just got completely flipped over by waves that sent me tumbling, and like I don't think I've swum in deep water or deeper water than my waist since either of those happened, because it felt so much like, wow, I understand how people drown so quickly in the ocean because the power. Very interesting that you can use the riptides. So the swell sets come in from different directions, and you're looking at where they're coming in from the ocean. That's mainly determining like where you're going to surf, because you know that certain directions hit certain beaches.
Yeah, like those certain swell directions are going to create more rights or more lefts, or like a combination of both.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Guanacaste, is there a general direction from the source of the swell that just means Guanacaste is going to be awesome that day?
I would say, with the exception of Tamarindo, like a kind of a southwesterly,
Okay.
like a west southwesterly direction.
Yeah.
Is going to be the best.
Because most of the beaches are actually facing west southwest.
Yes.
Rather than Tamarindo's kind of north.
Kind of faces north. Yeah.
Okay.
The Tamarindo breaks is like one of the few places around here that likes more of a north swell. Whereas everywhere else likes more of a south.
Yeah.
But like not too south. If it's too south, it kind of like
comes across the beaches.
Yeah, kind of comes across. You want it like a bit more west, so it kind of comes in more straight.
Yeah. What's the best time of year for surf consistently?
Personally, for where we are, I think May. Because the southern hemisphere, we don't really start there's two different seasons. From about November to April, most of the swells come out of the north. So from about May till about October, most of the swells come out of the south.
Yeah.
So around May is when we start getting swells from the southern hemisphere, but we still have these nice dry season conditions.
Oh yeah.
So what a lot of times will happen is, even though we get a lot of swell in like July, August, September, we have bad conditions that go with it. So I would say, April, May. Okay. And maybe possibly November is kind of like a little sleeper month. Yeah. That like transitions from wet season to dry season. Yeah. Yeah.
I totally agree. I mean, well, May to me is usually one of my favorite months of the year. The rainy season is delayed right now, so it's becoming one of my least favorite as we sit here and sweat bullets. I'm also renting a house that doesn't have a single AC anywhere, nor does it have a single. We're renting over here because we're remodeling our house. Oh, okay. Ryan and I also haven't caught up in a while. I saw him in the supermarket the other day. So yeah, we've been there for 3 months, and the worst part is that it just doesn't have a single tree. It's a new house, zero shade planted around it. So at all hours of the day, we're just baking like the surface of the sun. Thank you very much to Simon, our friend, for renting us the house. We're very glad to have a place to stay at such a reasonable rate. Very much appreciated. Don't watch all of my broadcasts where I talk about this house because it's, I wish there was some shade. Anyhow, I'm trying to think of other questions that I might have for a surfer. Paul mentioned in San Diego, they timed surfing for mid-tide, but when they were there in January, some of the surfers said it's better at high tide. So what?
I've actually surfed San Diego many times, quite a bit, and it just depends on where you are. Okay. Yeah.
What, in terms of tides, is there a specific time? I mean, high tide is when you go surfing?
Sand bottom breaks, for the most part, prefer like a higher tide, so there's more water and it's deeper. Yeah. And reef breaks kind of generally, it depends on the depth of the water at the reef, because the reef doesn't change. Yeah. So like a reef break's kind of always going to be good at a certain tide. Yeah. Whereas the sand can move a lot. So like one day, it might be better at more of a mid tide, or maybe better at more of a high tide, better at a low tide. It depends on the size of the wave too. Yeah. Like the bigger the wave, obviously the deeper the water has to be. Yep. So like maybe you'll check this beach break on one day and it's small and it's low tide and it's good. You go back the next day, it's big and low tide, and you're like, oh no. But then you go back when it's high tide, and then it's doing it. Yeah. But then you can go to the same reef break and look at it at low tide, and it's not happening. Then at mid tide, it's happening. Then at high tide, it's kind of not. But then you can go back to that same reef break every day, and it's kind of going to be doing it at the exact same time. Well, and when you're saying it's happening, like you're saying it looks pretty, and you're getting a little bit of breaking on the top of the wave and everything. That's just when
Thank you.
when per size of swell and depth of water, that's when it's that's when it's prime time.
No, I think more than anything, one of the biggest morals of the story is you don't come to Costa Rica, rent a surfboard, put on one of the rental shirts, and just head out to a surf spot.
And Tamarindo and the Jersey spots, you can do that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Not around here.
Yeah.
No.
There are lots of beaches. The surf breaks are only going to be working at certain tides, certain directions of the swell. When I moved here, I didn't even know how much the tides affect your beach experience. I literally, and I see this all the time with my real estate clients, will go out to a beach at low tide and they'll say, oh, this is rocky and it's junk. And it's like, well, 6 hours from now, all of these rocks are going to be covered by water. And you would say completely different things. You know, this looks like a dangerous beach now where there's waves lapping up on shore. Every 6 hours, it changes that dramatically. Then you also have the direction that the swell is coming in. You also have all of the factors for the layout of the beach and how that water is going out with the riptide. Don't just plunge into the water in Costa Rica if you don't see a lot of other people already in the water. You need to get information from locals. People like Ryan are super friendly and he doesn't want to save you while you're drowning out there. Get information because really it's a nuanced thing. There's all kinds of different variables that could be changing the safety of the beach.
Know before you go.
Know before you go. And if you've planned that beach for vacation and you just want to plunge into the water, that can be a recipe for disaster. You know, it's like people think that they have to get to Costa Rica and I want to go swimming. You've had more people get stuff stolen from their car because they just had to drive to the beach and immediately get into the water, let alone the people to whom, you know, they're getting in the water when they shouldn't be. But overall, take your time getting into the ocean. Don't be too concerned that you're going to miss something. Learn from people like Ryan. And if you want to learn how to surf here, that's absolutely great, but it's not going to happen in one single surf session. Of course, we'll be back live next Friday, May 19th at noon with our typical Costa Rica real estate broadcast. Thanks for your time, Ryan. I really appreciate you coming in. Hopefully, he mentioned he's already been surfing today, so we didn't interrupt any really important business.
Yeah, I'm not stoned. I'm just red-eyed from being in the water all day for the last 2 weeks.
Well, and no one would have cared anyway.
True.
Thanks very much for joining us. If you're interested in moving to Guanacaste, be sure to email me. My address is matt@cvpacificrealty.com. See you next Friday, folks.